All right, so we're back again here with another video. In today's video, what I'm doing is I'm comparing three inspired fragrances to, I would say right now, what is a very sort of popular niche fragrance, and that is Ex Nihilo's Blue Talisman. All right, so obviously I have here Maison Asrar's Legacy. I also have the Yaman Leo Blue Spell. And then I also have the newest inspired fragrance of Blue Talisman that I picked up, which is Afnan's Turathi Electric. All right. So I'm going to be going over these fragrances and just, giving, my sort of, opinion on which one of these is closest to Blue Talisman, which one would I recommend, out of the three pretty much. All right. So first, what I'm going to do here, since I've already done a video kind of going over like the presentation for Legacy, I'm going to go over the presentation of Afnan's Turathi Electric. So for this one, you've got the name of the fragrance here, Turathi Electric. Kind of got, I don't know exactly what that looks like. Almost kind of reminds me anyway of like a coffin. That's really what that reminds me of. But you've got Turathi Electric, Afnan. This is an eau de parfum. This is a 90 ml, so a 3-ounce bottle. Afnan on the top there. You've got nothing on that side, and then on this side you got the authenticity sticker as well as a QR code. And then on the back you've got the ingredients, barcode, batch date. This particular bottle was manufactured in May of this year, and nothing on the bottom. And then this opens up, bottle sits in their coffin style like that. And you've kind of got like this whole like luminescent sort of, color grade that's all on the entire box, as well as, it's on the bottom. So basically like the color kind of looks different depending on, what type of light is hitting it or what angle you're looking at it from. So pretty nice presentation here with the Turathi Electric. One thing that I also like about the Turathi Electric is the sprayer on this is actually very, very nice. It's not like a pressurized sprayer, but it does shoot out a pretty decent amount of juice. And then you've kind of got like this plaque down here on the bottom of the bottle. It says eau de parfum, and it's got like the size of the bottle, made in UAE. So you've got that at the bottom of the bottle there. And then obviously on the front, Turathi Electric, Afnan. All right. So the bottle, I don't mind this bottle at all. It's a very kind of peculiar looking bottle, but I don't mind it at all. And obviously I would say the presentation for Maison Asrar's Legacy, I do think that this is the better looking bottle. This definitely, it looks like a premium, sort of fragrance for sure. Definitely looks like a fragrance that would cost more than like $50, in my opinion anyway. So I do really like the presentation on Legacy. All right. Now, I'm gonna get into the notes here, and let's go ahead and get that started. So for the notes for Blue Talisman in the top notes, you get pear, bergamot, mandarin orange, and ginger. In the mid, you get orange blossom and Georgie wood, and then in the base, you get musk, ambrofix, akigala wood, and cedar. Now for Legacy, you get ginger, pear, and bergamot. In the mid, you get orange blossom, jasmine, and woody notes. And then in the base, you get amber, musk, and vanilla for Legacy. Now for Turathi Electric, in the top notes, you get pear, mandarin orange, and bergamot. In the mid, you get orange blossom, cedar wood, and apple. And in the base, you get vanilla, amber, and musk. Now, for the note breakdown of Blue Spell, I couldn't find anything for this, but I'm still including this in this video just to kind of give you all, a nice little ranking, between these sort of cheaper Middle Eastern versions and then, you know, a house like Yom and Leo to, you know, let you all know which one I think is either really bad or which one is really good. All right. So let's get started with the smell comparison. So in my opinion, I would still say that the Maison Asrar Legacy, out of, you know, all three of these, so the Maison Asrar, the Afnan, and then the Yom and Leo, to me, this is still going to be the closest one, you know, to the actual smell of Blue Talisman. Now, again, I'll still maintain that I don't think that this is a one-to-one. Every time that I spray this and I spray it side by side with Blue Talisman, I'm easily able to pick out differences between this and Blue Talisman. You know, from the opening, really all throughout the entire fragrance. But I would say, especially in the opening, this just doesn't have the same blend quality as what Blue Talisman does. You know, it does come very close, but, you know, to me, Blue Talisman has this sort of like, it's kind of hard to describe. I would say it's kind of like this three-dimensional, almost kind of like the fragrance is sort of, you know, floating around you sort of smell. So it's like this very sort of soft, you know, I would say soft, but very sort of high quality, and, you know, very sort of, you know, surreal sort of, you know, smell and feeling to it. I don't get the same, you know, sort of feel from Maison Asrar's Legacy when I first sprayed this on. You know, it does come across to me as a little bit more harsher and a little bit, just slightly more synthetic smelling. Now, obviously, Blue Talisman in itself, you know, the scent profile is a very sort of synthetic smell in general. But, you know, to me, this does smell a little bit more synthetic than what, you know, Blue Talisman does. This still smells very, very good, but it still smells to me a little bit more synthetic, a little bit more sort of like peppery and harsh, you know, than what Blue Talisman does. And it doesn't give you that same sort of like three-dimensional floaty sort of feel that you get from, you know, something like Blue Talisman. Now, for the Afnan, you can tell this fragrance is just trying to do its own thing pretty much. I can't even really say that this smells like Blue Talisman really in the like initial opening. You know, to be honest with you, the Afnan to me smells like a totally different fragrance. Or you could say like maybe you could say like a flanker maybe of Blue Talisman. Like the fruitiness in the Afnan is definitely dialed way up. It's dialed way up. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing. I do think though that the Afnan, in my opinion, it comes across as the more sort of feminine leaning fragrance, the way this comes across. So like the pear, the mandarin, those are definitely dialed up a lot more in Turathi Electric. They're sweeter in this fragrance for sure. But also this has like more of, it has a lighter sort of feel, in my opinion, than what Blue Talisman does. Blue Talisman, while it is still like a light sort of freshy type of scent, this comes across much lighter. Like I said, this would almost kind of be like a eau fraiche, you know, sort of, you know, flanker of Blue Talisman, in my opinion. Like I said, much more fruity, a lot lighter, sweeter. This is definitely more kind of playful, more juvenile smelling. But one thing that I will say about this fragrance is, at least in my opinion anyway, this does not smell like a cheap fragrance, or it doesn't smell like, you know, the cheaper interpretation. This to me still smells very high quality. It gives me that same sort of like floaty sort of feeling that you get from Blue Talisman. I also get that with the Turathi Electric, but it's just a lot more lighter. All right. But yeah, I mean, I still kind of get like a slightly sort of floaty, three-dimensional sort of, you know, feel from the Afnan Turathi Electric. This is just, it's a much more fruitier interpretation. It doesn't really lean that much into, you know, the florals the way that the original Blue Talisman does, or even like the Maison Asrar version. This is just, I would say this would be more so like the type of fragrance that I would wear to like the beach or something like that. Not saying that, you know, you probably wouldn't also wear Blue Talisman to the beach as well. But I mean, at least for me, I don't necessarily know that I would reach for Blue Talisman if I'm going to the beach. This would definitely be one that I would reach for if I were going to the beach or like a pool party or something like that. The Blue Talisman, or even like, you know, the Maison Asrar Legacy, this would more so be a fragrance that I think I would more so reach for, like if I were, you know, just doing something inside in like a climate controlled environment where, you know, when I was more kind of dressed up. I think that's more so when I would reach for Legacy or Blue Talisman. This is definitely like, you know, swimming trunks, flip-flops, t-shirt, you know what I mean? Like, it's that type of vibe in my opinion. Now, as for the Blue Spell, to me, this is just not a good interpretation of Blue Talisman. You know, I've mentioned it before when I did the Rate Your Favorite Clone House video, and you know, that I did on Blue Talisman, and I, you know, kind of went over this you know, sort of 5 sample set. This was one of the worst, you know, interpretations in that box. And, you know, definitely when you smell this side by side with the others, to me, this comes across as smelling like if you were a custodian and you had just been like cleaning toilets all day, or like okay, let's say you were mopping the floor all day and you had that water kind of sitting in the mop container. So, you know, it's starting to get kind of musty, but at the same time, you can still kind of smell like some of the cleaner that's in there that you're using to mop the floor with. That is the sort of vibe and smell that I get from Blue Spell. This is not a good interpretation at all of Blue Talisman, in my opinion. This is not one that I enjoy wearing, and this is not one that I would wear, to be honest with you. It's just not good at all. It's not good at all. Like I said, it comes off smelling like musty kind of, you know, mop water with, you know, a little bit of some kind of like fruity sort of smelling cleaner in it. But that's basically what this comes across as smelling like. You know, I'm sure there's people who probably own a full bottle of this and people compliment them on it. You know, if that's you, that's fine. But at least for me anyway, this would not be the Blue Talisman interpretation that I would recommend to anybody at all. Like, this is just not, it's not very good. I would absolutely choose the Turathi Electric over this. I would choose the Maison Asrar Legacy over this. I would also choose the Lattafa Art of Universe over the Blue Spell. Now, I don't have that bottle with me in this video right now because I did sell that. And I also do intend to probably sell both of these. And I'll kind of go over why here in just a moment. But, you know, again, I would say if you're looking for, again, the best, you know, or like the closest interpretation to Blue Talisman, then I think Maison Asrar's Legacy would definitely be the one that you'll want to look for, from like the Middle Eastern fragrance side of things. And then as far as Turathi Electric goes, I'm sure this one will probably get a lot of hate because it does smell totally different from Blue Talisman. Now, to me, it does start to smell a lot closer to like the dry down of Blue Talisman in the dry down of this fragrance. But it is still, again, noticeably lighter than Blue Talisman is. Definitely more fruitier and sweet. And, again, in my opinion, this does have more of kind of like a slightly sort of feminine lean to it, more so than Blue Talisman or even, the Legacy does, because of the fact that it's a more sort of sweeter, fruitier style fragrance. All right. But I would still definitely rock this one for sure. I definitely enjoyed wearing this fragrance, when I did wear it. And I'll kind of go over the performance differences in a moment. But yeah, this is definitely going to be the more fruitier, lighter, slightly more feminine, take on the scent profile. But overall, I do think that the quality on this is very, very good. So performance wise, performance on Legacy, I've had this for several weeks now. Each time that I wear this, it's gotten better than what it was like when I initially got it, like the first couple of days that I wore it. But it still is lacking, in my opinion, in terms of projection. And it's lacking in terms of like the longevity as well. I get better projection and longevity out of Turathi Electric, just straight out of the box, than what I do the Maison Asrar Legacy. So with this one, the projection on this is like half of what it is with Blue Talisman. So I get maybe like, I don't know, like a little bit over half an arm's length or so of projection for like the first hour and a half or so. And then it dials back after that. And, in terms of like the overall longevity on this fragrance, I only get like, I'm only getting like around 6 hours maximum with this fragrance. So, for me, even though, yes, this does seem to be the closest interpretation to Blue Talisman, I can barely smell it on me. So it's kind of like, what's the point, Whereas again, with this, even though this is technically like the lighter sort of scent profile, I'm still able to smell this on myself a lot better than I can the Maison Asrar Legacy. So whenever I wore this, I got pretty decent projection, at least like an arm's length or more for about the first hour and a half. And then it did dial back, but I was still able to smell this fragrance for at least about 7 hours or so. So, again, it projects a little bit better on my skin than what the Maison Asrar Legacy does. And it actually lasts a little bit longer. And again, I'm able to smell this the whole entire time. Whereas with Legacy, a lot of times with Legacy, I really have to kind of like do this to really be able to smell it. So I really don't get that much enjoyment out of wearing Legacy. Now with Blue Spell does project, in my opinion, better than both the Afnan as well as the Maison Asrar. But again, the smell on this is just not in my opinion, it's not a good smell at all. So even though this does project pretty good, over arm's length for like the first 2.5 hours, for me anyway, I don't enjoy what I smell out of this. This also does last pretty long as well, easily on me over 10 hours. It's definitely, closer to the Blue Talisman sort of performance. But, again, this is not a good interpretation at all. All right. I think at this point, for me anyway, I've kind of, found that if I want that exact same blue Talisman, you know, sort of experience, I think that's going to be another fragrance that I'm just going to have to buy. I'm going to try to see if I can buy a bottle off of somebody secondhand and get, you know, a good little discount or deal off of it. Because I don't necessarily know that I want to spend like $3.55 or so on like a bottle of blue Talisman. There's other fragrances that I do want more than that, you know, especially for that money. So I'll have to see. But in the meantime, I do think what I will do is end up selling Maison Asrar's Legacy, as well as Turathi Electric, and just, you know, kind of save up for a bottle of blue Talisman. I think that's probably what I'll do. But, you know, again, if I were to rank these in terms of closeness, I would say this Maison Asrar's Legacy would be number one. Turathi Electric would be, I would say in this case, I want to rate this for sure over the Yaman Leo. So I mean, it's not really that close to blue Talisman. It gets sort of close in the dry down. So I mean, I guess really I would say these two would kind of be like second place basically. But even though this is maybe slightly closer to blue Talisman, you know, or at least it's trying to be, this to me smells much better. So, you know, in terms of like which ones I enjoy the most, I think I do enjoy the Turathi Electric the most, and then the Maison Asrar would be second, and then obviously the Blue Spell would be last. All right. Now for my closeness rating, this again, I would say is about, you know, anywhere from like 95 to like 97% closer so to blue Talisman, the Maison Asrar Legacy. Turathi Electric to me is like at best maybe like 70% close to blue Talisman. And then Blue Spell, I would say maybe Blue Spell is about 75% close to blue Talisman. But again, there's just something about this that just, it does not, I don't know if this is a bad batch. I kind of feel like that has to be the case. Like this has to be bad juice in here. You know, especially with a lot of other people saying like that this is like one of the closest things to blue Talisman out there. I just don't see it with this. I don't smell it. It just, it's not the same vibe at all, in my opinion. All right. So yeah, man, I mean, I would say these two are definitely very solid interpretations. This is definitely more of sort of like a twist on the scent profile. This is more of like a clone. But, you know, again, at least for me, the performance on this, it still sucks. And this is definitely going to be a much more sweeter, fruitier, slightly more feminine kind of take on the scent profile, and definitely lighter. All right. But I mean, overall, like I said, both are very good. So that's pretty much, that's my take on these. You know, I think if you're looking for that really sort of like, you know, fruity, floral, fresh, kind of three-dimensional, sort of floaty type of, you know, experience that you get with blue Talisman, I think at this point, you know, you kind of have to go with blue Talisman. You know, again, the Lattafa version, Art of Universe, I think that is also a very good interpretation. It's definitely a sweeter version of the scent profile. You know, but, you know, again, I think if Legacy, if you can get a bottle that performs on you, or maybe this just doesn't perform well on my skin, but it does on yours, then I would say Legacy will definitely be a pretty good choice for you, because it is very close to the original scent. All right. So that's my take on these fragrances, man. Definitely let me know in the comments what you all think about Turathi Electric, as well as Maison Asrar's Legacy. and also as well as Yaman Leo's Blue Spell, man. Definitely let me know what you all think. Also, I'll have links in the description to where you can purchase these fragrances. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you all in the next video.